too. I want to start with this one because this one really hits close to home, and this is for both candidates. Because of the current state of the economy, I just want to make sure that our jobs stay in our county. Are either of you looking at outsourcing any jobs or keeping the jobs within our county? And whoever wants to take that one first, feel free.
I'm a big proponent of keeping things in our county, employees, services, because the dollars that get spent in the county come back into the county coffers in the form of property taxes, sales tax, things like that. Now, on the other hand, if I stood up here and told you that, yeah, I'm going to do everything in county, it would be untruthful. If something is so fiscally sound and legal that outsourcing it would save the county a lot of money, would be responsible to the community and responsible to the county and responsible to my office, then absolutely I will look at those issues. But for the most part, personnel that live in the county is huge. Services that we can purchase in the county are huge. I don't have a problem with outsourcing. If it's in the county, as long as it's reasonable, it's legal, it saves everybody money, and it's the best for the community and the department.
I believe that you do keep the dollars here in the county. I'm a big advocate, and it has really nothing to do with the core of being a sheriff, but I'm a big advocate of spending your money within a mile of your house if you can. If you can't, within 2 miles, within 5 miles. Now, to be very frank with you, I've tried to wean myself off as much as I can of Costco and Sam's Club down in Folsom, and I still find myself headed down there sometimes and have to turn around and come back up. I have, because in the last couple of years that I've been contemplating running for sheriff and speaking to former Sheriff Jeff Neves, he says, you've got to stress county dollars, and so I really have made a concerted effort to shop for my clothes and everything else as close as I can. Oh, this is from pennies, I think, though. As close as I can to home. So I think it is very, very important.
If you don't win, will you still maintain that same thought process?
If what? I'm sorry.
If you're not elected, will you still shop?
No, heck, I'll go down to Sacramento.
I'll just take one here random. This is interesting, and either of you gentlemen feel free to respond. Now that South Lake Tahoe is 30% Latino, what are your views on enforcing the illegal immigration laws?
I'll say it straight up. The word you said, illegal immigration. It's not legal. The federal law says it the way it is. State law says it the way it is. Illegal immigration. Folks, this is not, Arizona went through this. This is not profiling. The law is in the normal course of duties. You get stopped with the headlight out. That's in the normal course of duty. But I think it's clear. Illegal immigration. And it's illegal.
Probably feel pretty similar to John. I traveled a lot through Europe years ago, so I've been to like 13, 14 countries in Europe. And I always imagine if I was there illegally and working illegally, wouldn't somebody come and say, hey, Craig, you don't speak very good, whatever, French or whatever, wherever I am. Are you here illegally? And how much offense that I would take to that? And I don't think I would. I agree with John. If you're here illegally, I think there should be a process. Doesn't mean because somebody who looks Hispanic, I'm of Danish descent, so obviously you can have Danish people here illegally too. So I don't think we target people because they look illegal or look Hispanic, but I do think in the normal course that that would be a reasonable question to ask.
This is another local-oriented one, and either of you, if you want to jump in on this. If you're elected sheriff, would Tahoe Search and Rescue and Tahoe boats be run out of the local Tahoe office with local Tahoe supervision?
There you go. I think that makes sense. I've heard that right now everything is run out of Placerville. I believe there does also need to be one chief. You end up with too many chiefs and not enough Indians, and you end up into the accountability issues and who's actually responsible. But Tahoe is well aware of Tahoe's issues, and they're unique up here. You guys, we all have a different attitude up here. There's different values. There's different issues that we all have to deal with. Now, to say that Placerville is giving direction to search and rescue, Placerville is giving direction to boating and waterways, and to a certain extent even Placerville is giving direction to the deputies and how they're working their patrol services up here and everything else. like I said earlier, this office up here runs very efficiently and very smooth. And I've looked at it as a model of using some of the same things down there as far as the customer service style of patrol. And I think that search and rescue and boating as well maybe can run their own house, but again, we still need to have one chief for accountability issues. And that would obviously be out of the main office in Placerville.
I don't have any problem with, I know our guys are in the audience, and when I worked up here, I would have liked to have had those same opportunities. So you said search and rescue and boats, is that what you said? The last time that we ran a recruitment for boats to ask people for training, we didn't have very many or any people sign up for the position. There may be other factors involved with this, but I'm all for. I worked boat patrol up here when I was up here with South Lake Tahoe Police Department. I worked a little bit with the SO up here on a part-time basis, and I would be for, providing the opportunity. The guys that work up here, need more things to do. I think there's a lot of opportunities down in Placerville with all the different things, services that are offered, and I would certainly look into. I'm not predisposed to saying that we couldn't run search and rescue. We do have a good search and rescue up here, but it's the command is what they're asking more for, and the same thing with the boats, to be able to have a command up here. So if it's fiscally responsible also, and there's a way to do it, I don't have any problem with that.
I want to ask both of you gentlemen this too, and if you're elected sheriff, how would you go about electing an undersheriff? Do you have anybody in mind? I've always wanted to.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
You don't elect an undersheriff, you appoint an undersheriff. It's the only appointed position in the county, in the sheriff's office. I have talked to several different people about their interest in undersheriff, and see, interview people and try to see, what kind of person they are. I know people in our department that would be very, very qualified for that position too. I've also looked into flattening out the organization and considering 2 assistant sheriffs for this reason. Having an undersheriff that is responsible for every single part of the organization, it's sometimes a little bit too much. In my mind, what I highly consider an assistant sheriff in patrol and the jail, and then another assistant sheriff in everything else. Also, and I'm talking about because of these catastrophic economic times we're in, to be able to temporarily do away with the captain and lieutenant's rank and put commanders in. So we have people that when you go to them for an answer, they don't have to say, wait, I'll go and get the captain's answer for this. Those commanders would be in charge of the particular unit they're working on. That would save us somewhere between $450,000 and $650,000. So it's not the best idea, but it may be the best idea in these economic times.
That's all right.
I have you guys, when one goes over, I give you the other one. Just FYI.
Can we do that?
I-
Can we roll it over like your minutes?
Yeah, I'm rolling over their minutes a little
Fine,
bit.
fine.
Second.
Yes, I absolutely have thought about my undersheriff. I'm not going to name my undersheriff. I do have somebody in mind. This person will be the most qualified, with the highest training, the honesty, integrity, and morality is bar none the best of anybody I know. I'll also tell you that this person has not been offered a job, because I'm not the sheriff yet. And yes, the sheriff is appointed. I've also looked at the 2 assistant sheriff issue, and the bottom line is if you go all across this state, nearly every sheriff's office that's ever started out with the 2 assistant sheriffs always ends up back to one single undersheriff. Because you end up with conflict issues, you end up with, again, too many chiefs, not enough Indians, that issue. It sounds fiscally reasonable when you start, but in the end, it really isn't, because you still have to have a command structure down here somewhere that you're paying to make those decisions and bear those responsibilities.
More questions from the audience. This is directed at both candidates, by the way. How do you, as sheriff, plan to deal with underage use of legal marijuana and spice, synthetic marijuana, and how do you keep juveniles away from the allure of the collectives?
Of the dispensaries?
Yeah.
I don't know. fact, I learned some of this from my colleague here from, because he's a narcotics expert. But there has been states that have legalized marijuana and have found that the youth rate of use has gone up, has skyrocketed. I don't know how to keep them away from dispensaries. Obviously, you have to have an ID to prove who you are and how old you are. So I would imagine that would be the first thing. But it's, to target at-risk behavior in our youth, they have similar things in common in that I do think that we need to be getting the community involved, send a message to the community that we're not going to put up with alcohol use, illegal drug use, get them on board to report it and do stings at markets, do stings at different places where alcohol is being sold to them. And I'm a big proponent of not seeing these crosses go up on the roads anymore where our youth are getting killed.
With the youth and the marijuana use issue, what I find that works the best is interaction with them and education, and talk to them. The weed of today is not the weed of our granddaddies. This is a totally different breed of marijuana. We're talking 36, 38% THC, which is the substance that gets you high. Years ago, 7% was the good stuff. Proposition 19 is not going to work in California. And the state that Craig mentioned was Alaska in the late 70s. They decriminalized it. The youth dependency rate, not just the use rate, but the dependency rate went through the roof. The social treatment costs went through the roof, and 3 years later they turned around and recriminalized it. It went that crazy. And the culture in California is not conducive to this. We're working within the guidelines of Proposition 215 right now, the Compassionate Use Act, and we're dealing with it. It's evolving every day. I've been dealing with it for 14 years, but we are dealing with it. We don't need another one of these. We already have one legal drug, alcohol. We don't need another one. Dealing with the youth that are using and smoking marijuana, again, interaction and education is the best way.
Somebody has a car, lights are on, that Chevy Impala with convertible.
Oh,
So if it's yours,
it's a convertible?
convertible.
Oh, man, that's going to be cool.
David's already got it.
I was going to lead up to this, it wasn't part of the questions, but if Prop 19 does pass, will you be reluctant to enforce that, or do you have to? Or, obviously I know, John, your feelings on that, but I'd like, you could...
Well, if you've read Prop 19, if you've read the law behind it, the legislation that they're trying to pass behind it, it's going to be very hard to enforce as far as medicinal. We're going to still have medicinal marijuana, which is not taxed, by the way. So the huge tax boom they're talking to the state of California, it's written right into the law that medicinal marijuana will not be taxed. So it's not going to be this huge tax boom. As far as enforcement, we're going to be working with it the same as we are with alcohol. Underage and driving under the influence. Those are the same issues we're going to be dealing with. And we're also going to be dealing with, and there's going to be, I guarantee you, a slew of lawsuits for drug use in the workplace. And there's been an issue that's been brought up about the federal drug-free work environment, work-free places, or whatever, I can't remember the exact name. And if somebody wants to raise their legal right and say, well, I got a doctor's recommendation or whatever, and it's legal and I'm smoking, and then they fire them, same as if they come to work under the influence of alcohol, I guarantee you the courts are going to be flooded with suits. So it's just not going to work in California.
I agree. It's a nightmare to experiment with the largest state in the union to legalize marijuana and see how it works. Let's just experiment with this state. John mentioned Alaska. That was a good experiment. Well, it wasn't a good experiment, but if you're going to experiment, a little tiny state, population-wise, as Alaska, might be a better idea. It didn't work. We need to learn from that. 215 was a nightmare when it was passed. Propositions are a terrible way to pass